When do you think we're going to get a $200,000 Bitcoin?
2024 was quite interesting for crypto.
Tariffs influence on sentiment, something else you're looking at here.
Rumors about tariffs, because we still don't know what's happening.
What else would you suggest for traders of CFDs? What's your top tip?
Okay, so I'll just give you three.
Hello traders and welcome to this latest podcast from Exness, which is the first in a new series. We'll be discussing the effects of tariffs and various other major events on the most important financial instruments. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you can be informed as soon as the next videos in the series are released. Today, our topic is what's next for crypto in 2025. I'm Michael Stark, financial content leader, and joining us here today is Antreas Themistokleous, trading content specialist. Welcome, Andreas.
Hello, Michael, and thanks for having me.
And before I think we get on to what's next for crypto this year, 2025, let's look back at last year and think about what happened. So we had lots of factors that drove the $100,000 Bitcoin, but what do you think is the most important or the handful of most important factors that led us to where we are now in terms of Bitcoin above 100,000?
Yeah, so 2024 was quite interesting for crypto. Let's take it historically. From January, we had the launching of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, where we had big companies like BlackRock and Fidelity getting involved. Then on April, we had the crypto halving, where we had a supply shock in the market because now miners were getting rewarded less. So we had this supply shock that boosted further the price. And then in November, we had the inauguration of President Trump, which was considered by many as a pro-crypto guy. That gave the final boost to Bitcoin that reached the 100,000 mark. And throughout the year, also we had geopolitical tensions around the world, which added to uncertainty, further supporting Bitcoin price as a hedge, let's say, against fear.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then afterwards, we had Bitcoin moving down to trade around 80,000 for a certain period until around the middle of April. So what do you think are some of the factors behind that? And actually, perhaps, I suppose, a bigger question that I want to discuss is how do we see this as being a correction or a crash, or how do you interpret that within the overall context of Bitcoin's movements?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so after we reached the 100,000 mark, we had a lot of profit-taking activity, right? Because a lot of people were anticipating the 100,000. So when it reached that level, we had a lot of profit-taking, which that then pushed the price to the downside. Right. So how do we distinguish between retracement, corrections, and crashes? How I like to see it is that a retracement is something minor that is happening. Let's say around a 5 or 10% drawdown from the all-time high, let's say. And also, it's time-wise is very short, probably like a week. A retracement is something medium term, and percentage-wise, it's around 10 to 30%, let's say. And it's also, if we're looking, for example, at the daily chart, we can say it probably is around a month and 3 months, somewhere around there. Now, a crash is a complete trend reversal. From the all-time high, let's say we have a drawback of around 30+%, and it takes more. It's in the longer term, right? So between three plus months. Mm-hmm. So that's how I distinguish between the three. It's also percentage-wise and time-wise.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good. So in that case, then we're basically looking at a correction for that movement that we had earlier this year.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Right. And I think the reason that that's important, or one of the main reasons that's important, is that a lot of traders, when they see Bitcoin at a new high, some of them will think, oh, I need to get rid of this as soon as possible before it crashes. And some of them will also think, oh, I need more money to put more money into it because it's going to keep going up. So when we start seeing a crash, or we start seeing a significant retracement or correction, it's important, I think, to be able to analyze when might this finish? How long might it continue to have maybe more reliable signal for entry? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also side note here. It's never a good idea to jump when an instrument is trading at an all-time high, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
You already need to wait for some retracement at least before if you want to jump in.
Yes, quite, to de-risk it, yeah. And then, and latterly also, we've seen that within the last few days, few weeks, Bitcoin's moved back up again, back above $100,000. So what do you think are some of the big factors behind that, like tariffs influence on sentiment, something else you're looking at here?
Yeah, tariffs definitely, at least rumors about tariffs, because we still don't know what's happening. I mean, we had 145%, now we have 30. We're going to discuss tariffs in a different video. But definitely tariffs had something to do with the retracement of Bitcoin and also the shift in sentiment, because we went from fear within the first quarter of 2025 to a complete shift, and now we're currently in greed. So if we take a look at the fear and greed index, it's currently, I think, around 70. So that indicates greed. So a shift in sentiment plus uncertainty created by tariffs created this extra boost that Bitcoin needed to reach the 100K again.
Yeah, makes sense. And that's something that we're going to be discussing in more detail in a blog article, which you can access from the link in the description. So if you want to know more details about crypto and tariffs, crypto sentiment right now, then please click on the link in the description and read the article for all of the details there. So let's just shift slightly. How personally, what have you been doing? Like within this context, since around this time last year, what has been your approach with crypto, whether deliverables or with CFDs?
Yeah, so personally, I don't have anything exciting to share about when it comes to crypto, because I was buying and holding since just before the launching of the ETF, so sometime around late 2023. So since then, I'm just buying and holding. And now that it reached the 100K again, I might consider exiting some positions, take some profits, but overall, I'm just buying and holding. Nothing too exciting.
Fair enough, right? And let's look at the chart. So we can see that if we're looking at a daily chart of Bitcoin, we can see that it has this dip, and now the price has started to move up and test the all-time high again. So what would you say, Andreas, is like top 1, 2, 3 factors to be aware of? What would you highlight on this chart for our viewers?
So first of all, I think this time around, when it reached the 100K mark, it will not be a complete reversal, because the first time around we had a lot of profit-taking activity, but this time I think people are anticipating even higher values for Bitcoin. So I do believe that for the time being, at least, if we don't see any major catalyst in the market, for example, cutting of the extension of the tariffs or anything, significant, we might see some sideways movement in the near short term. And we also have the moving averages, the 50-day crossing above the 100K. It's a technical indicator that shows that the overall bullish trend is still valid in the market. So I do believe that in the short term, we might see some sideways movement on Bitcoin.
Okay. And I think one potentially important catalyst as well is monetary policy, because if we look within the last month or so, then expectations for monetary policy have got quite a lot less dovish, and now actually the majority of people are expecting the Fed's going to be holding all the way into September. So while it's not very likely, it's possible if these expectations become more dovish, then we might get some further support for Bitcoin. Yeah. So there's lots of potential catalysts there that I think it's interesting to watch, yeah. And in this situation, of course, we discussed earlier about how don't buy the very tops. But apart from that, what else would you suggest for traders of CFDs specifically to manage risk in this situation? What's your top tip?
Okay, so I'll just give you 3. Right?
Okay, that's fine. 3 is good.
The first one is always test your strategy small before you start investing heavily, right? Just test, see what works for you. Second of all, always use a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, right? Never risk more that you are about to gain, right? And also always have a trading journal.
Yeah.
Record what you are doing, record why you lost the trade, record why you want to trade and how you reacted to it. So you get a better image of your style.
Yeah, and you can also learn from your mistakes. Yeah, that's top, right? And now the one we've all been waiting for, when do you think we're going to get a $200,000 Bitcoin?
$2,000, I think I'm going to be quite optimistic, and I'm going to say probably in the next 5 years. But personally, I do believe that it will not take as much time to reach the 200K as it did to reach the 100K, because now we have more market participation, we have AI, we have all of this information around us about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I do believe we will reach 200,000 sooner than we did the 100K.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's optimistic. It's just not like very excessively optimistic.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would also ask you about the $5,000 Ether, but maybe let's not talk about that right now. Although Ether has actually been doing a lot better. Let's cover that in a future video and we can discuss more about that. So thanks very much, Andreas, for being here, for giving us your insights.
Thank you, Michael.
And thank you also to our viewers. And please remember, if you didn't do so already, to subscribe, turn on notifications so that you can be immediately aware when the next video in the series is uploaded, and hopefully see you there.